fly fish till the day that I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Beaver Kill River. Might even capture and release one or two. Well, some folks like horses, cats or dogs. Me, I like fishing with a rod and a fly. Yes, fishing is a favorite pastime of mine. If I couldn't do it, I think I would cry. Well, life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Trout is rising in the far eddy. I make a false cast, then take my aim. If he takes the fly, I feel so much better. And if he doesn't, I'll feel no shame. Stoneflies and caddis and the riffles are plenty. Mayflies courting on fragrant breeze. And cedar wax wings come down from the heaven, wait for their dinner up in the pine trees. The water is cold and my waders leak, and it's raining now on my favorite stream. I'll bear it all, just fish with a feather, so when I sleep I will have a sweet dream. And life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Oh, ripples and waves, pools and eddies, trout are rising for the mayfly. And the sun is shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish until the day that I die. Yes, I hope to be a fly fish until the day that I die.
There was a time, before the concrete started to flow, that the Snake River produced half of all the salmon in the Columbia River drainage. That's one of the major rivers in America. But the gauntlet of federal dams constructed to build the industry of the Northwest proved to be insurmountable, even for the king salmon, that mighty legendary fighter that holds such symbolic significance here. The confounding reality is we have the power to change the configuration and the operation of these dams. We have the power to save the salmon. The fight to save the salmon of the Northwest has national significance because, as in the case of the mighty bald eagle, it proves once again the tremendous importance of the Endangered Species Act. We must once again demonstrate the value of this important environmental law, and the salmon is the proper vehicle in which to do this. That creature that is the center of spiritual religion and a very significant part of this entire region must not be permitted to move into extinction. Your help is essential. Contact your congressman and urge them to see that the federal agencies, particularly the Army Corps of Engineers and the Bonneville Power Administration, become a part of the solution, and that they not resist change of a river system management that's going to make a museum piece out of the mighty salmon. There are two very important federal actions that must take place. First of all, the Army Corps of Engineers must be authorized to make the necessary structural changes, and OMB must be instructed to give BPA the necessary flexibility that it takes in their repayment schedule. Time is precious, ladies and gentlemen. Act now to save the salmon. Future generations will be in your debt.
The Salmon River no longer teems with Chinook salmon, and not one redfish returned to Redfish Lake last year, where once the bright vermilion of the sockeyes was a common sight. The great fish runs seem to have gone the way of the buffalo. As evening enfolds the rugged Sawtooth Mountains, an ancient custom is resurrected. For centuries, man has held candlelight vigils for long forgotten reasons. And for centuries, the sockeye salmon have made the 900-mile journey home to the Stanley Basin. On this quiet summer evening, the two ancient traditions converge. A ritual watch has gathered on the banks of the Salmon River. Lookouts for what may be the last sockeye salmon in Idaho.
I just can't imagine no redfish in Redfish Lake, no salmon in Salmon, Idaho.
On April 2nd, 1991, the National Marine Fisheries Service proposed listing sockeye salmon as endangered. 2 months later, spring, summer, and fall Chinook salmon were added to the proposal as threatened species.
They're being listed because they're going away. The wild salmon in Idaho are in real bad trouble. The coho are extinct. The fall Chinook are down to less than 100. The spring and summer Chinook are down to a few hundred. We're down to the California condor stage with sockeye.
Near midnight on this August evening, the candlelight watch melts away, disappointed. But early the next morning comes the reward. For the first time in 2 years, a sockeye salmon returns from the ocean to its spawning grounds at Redfish Lake.
It was great to actually have a sockeye actually come back to our hatchery. It's been since 1989 that I've seen one, and this morning we got one 21 inches long. We think it's a male.
2 more males and 1 female eventually join the first pioneer. In this carefully controlled environment at Sawtooth Hatchery lie the sole adult survivors of a species that once colored the waters of Redfish Lake crimson when they returned to spawn in the fall.
It's a tremendous lesson for people to learn that gosh, here's a fish that lives in this harsh, alpine, sterile environment and migrates 950 miles to the ocean and goes almost to the coast of Japan and makes this huge circle in the ocean and then comes back to this river and comes up through all this commerce and industry and back to this pristine high mountain country. We can't lose that.
Arduous though that return journey may be, it's the trip to the ocean that is killing these fish. In the early part of this century, a sockeye or Chinook smolt would wash down the roaring runoff of the Snake and Columbia River system from Idaho to the ocean in about 8 days. This hasty journey allowed the small fish to avoid predators and permitted the extraordinary biological changes to take place that adapted from freshwater to saltwater. But as the West was settled, the tremendous force of the Columbia River system was looked upon as a source of power to be harnessed. Bonneville Dam was built in 1938. 7 more dams were added on the mainstream Columbia and Lower Snake by 1975. The Middle Snake added 3 more, the last being Hell's Canyon Dam, built in 1967. Now that same smolt can take from 20 to 90 days to reach the ocean, if it gets there at all.
Such a great number of them die during the out-migration process. And we talk about the dams, and people get real sensitive about the dams. It isn't necessarily the dams per se. It's the pools created by the dams and the system created by the dams of operating the river to maximize the hydroelectric system rather than to maximize the productivity of the fish. The answer is quite simply to make the river act like a river again.
70 to 90% of Idaho's salmon smolts never make it to the ocean. The number depends on water volume. These last 5 years of drought have had a devastating impact on salmon numbers. A good snowpack and a healthy spring runoff flushes the smolts through the reservoirs to Lower Granite Dam. Here, the Army Corps of Engineers has tried to transport the salmon in fish barges through the remaining dams. However, in low water years, the only way to ensure that the smolts flush through the slack water reservoirs is to reduce the volume in those reservoirs, thus creating the flow necessary to hasten the small fish on their way.
That's a matter of technology. It took technology to build the dams. And we've got people in the United States military that can figure out how to build a site on an airplane that'll allow us to drop bombs into elevator shafts from 2 miles away, and we can sure as the devil figure out some way to get salmon back up a river and around a dam. It's a matter of having the commitment, making the commitment to do it, instead of to argue about whether it needs to be done.
What is the value of these fish? How do you put a price on a heritage? For years, salmon guide Bob Cole made his living on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. His livelihood was tied up in these enormous fish. But for Bob Cole and other folks that remember the days of the big salmon runs, the intrinsic value of Idaho's salmon far outweighs the economic benefits.
I'm not sure that I'll ever see it again. I feel bad about it. It's fishing's been a big thing all my life, ever since I was just a little kid. And to guide people that's never seen a fish that big, it's great to see them catch one of them. If they'd hook a fish, you never knew what was going to happen. They might bail off in the river, they might throw their pole in the river. It's just, it was great.
Bob guided out of Middle Fork Lodge, located in the Frank Church River of No Return wilderness. Here, along the Middle Fork of the Salmon River, lies pristine habitat, perfect for salmon spawning. The few remaining wild salmon return here in late summer to build nests in the stream bottom to lay their eggs. These nests are called redds.
See that swell on the water surface right ahead of us there? There's probably red in there, probably several.
Each summer at this time, Fish and Game biologist Terry Holubetz and his crew conduct what is called a red count. One way or another, either by helicopter, airplane, drift boat, or just plain walking along the tributaries, the many miles of Idaho's pristine spawning habitat is surveyed for salmon nests.
Here we have an area that the female has dug out and laid the eggs in about this area right here. And then she went upstream and dug farther up and covered up those eggs.
Although there are isolated pockets of habitat that could use some improvement, for the most part, biologists have found Idaho's wilderness rivers to be prime spawning grounds for wild salmon.
Okay, 3 reds so far. And this area in the next 100 meters or so usually has a lot of reds in it.
In late spring, the salmon smolts emerge from their gravel nests and the count begins again. Biologists use snorkeling gear to count the juveniles. At this point, prior to their migration to the ocean, salmon numbers are good. But from the time a juvenile fish leaves here to the time it arrives here is the danger zone for these smolts.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to produce a whole lot of fish, either in hatcheries or in pristine habitat like the whole Middle Fork and the Selway and all the designated wilderness, when they 80 or 90 or 95 or 98% of them never make it to the ocean.
The big salmon runs in Idaho are a part of our wildlife heritage. Anglers that grew up fishing for the salmon can no longer do so. Native Americans are being cheated out of their treaty rights. And folks like Bob Cole have only photos and memories to replace the feel of a huge salmon on their line.
I feel the same way as everybody else does. I think we need to do anything we can do, anything we have to do to get the fish back. It would, it would really help the economy, there's no doubt about it. You get a lot of local people that would go up there and spend the night if they had salmon up there. There's so many of the people that were just going through Stanley Basin, be there for a day or two. They'd drive down the road and see somebody packing a 25-pound salmon up the shoulder of the road, and they'd burn the rubber and want to know who could take them fishing. And it was great.
Idaho's lost the buffalo, virtually eliminated the wolf. Caribou and grizzly bear teeter on the edge of extinction. The salmon has shown its determination to survive by its incredible 900-mile journey. Now it's up to man to match that fortitude.
And I think the nation is losing something. These fish go away, they're not going to come back.
A remote pond in the Adirondack Park. A classic Catskill stream. Lake Ontario, the Finger Lakes, and their many tributaries. The Hudson and Delaware River drainages. All of these scenes are part of New York State's great fishing heritage. New York State is somewhat unusual in that there is a wide variety of fishing habitat available within a few hours' drive of a major metropolitan center. Many acres of excellent trout water, in fact, have been created through the development of the system of reservoirs that provides New York City with drinking water. In recent years, however, population growth and land development has sometimes limited public access to certain streams. Acid rain deposition continues to plague our mountain lakes and ponds. Poor farming practices have contributed to siltation and stream bank erosion. And toxic contamination, as well as non-point source pollution, is a continuing blight. What can we do to help preserve our precious waters, to maintain and develop fisheries for ourselves and future generations? The New York State Council of Trout Unlimited is addressing this question. Trout Unlimited was founded by a small group of Michigan anglers concerned by the declining quality of trout fishing in that state's Osable River. From this modest beginning in 1959, the volunteer organization has expanded to a national level with over 400 chapters and 65,000 members nationwide. New York State is currently one of the largest state councils with almost 6,000 members as of September 1989. Let's consider a few examples of what Trout Unlimited has done to help preserve and enhance New York's fishing heritage. Through cold water releases from the Pepacton and Cannonsville reservoirs, the east and west branches, as well as the main stem of the Delaware River, provide some of the finest wild trout habitat in the eastern United States. Trout Unlimited has been instrumental in negotiating adequate water releases and is continuing work to refine this release schedule to ensure preservation and growth of this great fishery. The New York State Council is also actively fighting proposals to chlorinate portions of the Groton watershed that are inhabited by trout. Trout Unlimited continues to aid the State Department of Environmental Conservation through recommendations regarding state acquisition of stream easements, the establishment of special regulations fishing areas, and the construction of angler parking and access areas. Trout Unlimited has actively supported the concept of ethical fishing, such as limiting one's catch to what will be immediately consumed. The New York State Council has annually sponsored a statewide trout forum so that anglers may gather in a social setting to share information. Trout Magazine is published 4 times annually by the National Office. It is sent free of charge to all Trout Unlimited members and contains articles on various aspects of trout fishing by well-known authors. An old adage states that the whole is only as strong as its individual parts. And this is certainly true of the New York State Council of Trout Unlimited. Much of Trout Unlimited's mission statewide is carried out at the local level by individual Trout Unlimited chapters. Although there is some variation from chapter to chapter, most meet on a once or twice monthly basis. Many chapter meetings feature programs of general interest, such as a guest speaker, a video or slide presentation, or a live demonstration. Trout Unlimited chapters have been involved in many aspects of habitat development and maintenance. Greenbelting, or limiting traffic and cultivation along each bank of a stream, is an effective means of reducing bank erosion. Greenbelting is often accompanied by the planting of willows or similar well-rooted plants that will help stabilize the stream bank. Sometimes the placement of a more extensive structure, such as a pool digger, is necessary to provide oxygenation and cover for trout. Stream cleanups are an excellent way for a chapter to improve the aesthetic quality of a fishery. Needless to say, the cleanups go a long way to enhance the image of fishermen with respect to local landowners. Trout Unlimited chapters play an important role in the community by providing information on local environmental issues and by sponsoring clinics on various aspects of angling, such as rod building or fly tying. Many chapters work directly with local school systems and with youth groups, such as the Boy Scouts and 4-H. Trout Unlimited is firmly committed to working with young people. If we can instill a sense of pride and responsibility for the environment in successive generations of fishermen, we can ensure the perpetuation of high-quality sport fishing. How can you help preserve New York's fishing heritage? It's easy. If you are currently a Trout Unlimited member, don't be a deadhead. Get involved. Help out with your chapter's banquet. Help out with raffles and other fundraisers. Take part in community education projects. Get your feet wet with a stream cleanup. Teach a kid to fish, or show up for your club's annual fishing day. If you are not currently a Trout Unlimited member, we hope that this presentation will be an inspiration to join us. Membership in Trout Unlimited can give you access to the latest information concerning equipment, fishing conditions, and fishing techniques that can make you a better fisherman. But the real reward of membership is the knowledge that you are helping to protect and to enhance a fine fishing heritage, and to preserve this heritage for future generations. This has been a production of the New York State Council of Trout Unlimited.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.